Hello all, this will be one of them long ones where I will probably go on for hours and I will probably be interrupted at some point by my neighbor knocking on the door to see me, but I will probably shout through the door that I'm busy doing a recording, but we'll see. Yeah, Jeewis. Oh, there he goes. Hello, Jeewis. And I will be discussing a very hard topic, the coronavirus, and what I think it may be. I've been trying rather hard to understand the virus, to see where it comes from, what its thing is. And I've been talking with a few of these alien groups that I have some amount of contact with and trying to figure out what is going on. Is this first contact sniffles? Is this a deliberate military attack on us? Is this me nuking the research site and they sending a biological weapon against us? What is this thing that's going on? And for the most part, I will probably be watching funny YouTube videos while I think about this. And the results thus far is that this does indeed seem like an alien attack. I know most of you won't believe me, and I don't really care. But from my little schizophrenic's point of view, this does indeed seem like an alien attack. The overlap between me doing the nuking of the floater research site, which I have documented extensively, and the resulting disease on Earth is too strong to be a complete coincidence. And I've been doing some UFC style quantum computing, and I've been trying to figure out if this is something where I should respond with like overwhelming force as best as I can, or should I contact the military and have them respond, or should I talk with the floaters? Now, keep in mind that the floater civilization, as far as most humans are concerned, are the angelic civilization. They are the angels. They are the guys who came from high above and wanted gold from us and mined us and taught us and so on and so forth. From my point of view, what I wanted to do was find the source of the nightmares that I have, find the root cause of them, and slap the person or persons or entity causing me this nightmare that I used to have as a kid. And as soon as I managed to do so, we had the coronavirus, which to me seems like if you punch them, they will punch you stronger, which to me seems like slavery. So I've been debating whether or not I should use the nuke powers, if you will, to go after these guys and just do the harm I can and be ready that I'm gonna be dying from it, or if I should just try some kind of peaceable negotiation or what I should do with this thing because an alien war is not something that I'd want on my home world. Keeping in mind that these guys do not seem to be able to just randomly nuke our world into oblivion, but they are able to make us nuke ourselves into oblivion because it seems there is a quarantine of Earth in that you can't just get a spaceship and park it in orbit because if there wasn't such a limitation, I would have done it myself. And it seems like we are, what's the word? Attacked by something that makes people heat up. When I watch these soldiers and people and humans, I feel there's almost like a bacterial infection that makes their brain heat up. And I'm debating if it's better that I just unleash my fury on this infection and see what happens, or if we should negotiate. And the first results were that we should probably do something besides the strongest punches in an unrestricted warfare. And I was talking with the floater civilization, and after one of my friends started basically dating an anthro alien, it took him some time to get the anthro to come through, but I am convinced that he got the anthro to come through. Some of my guides also switched to the anthro view so that they look like literal catgirls or anthropomorphized humans or anthropomorphized animals, I think is the word. And the floater civilization pretty clearly says that what we are experiencing to them is stray dogs. They are pretty openly saying that this is something that happens in space related encounters that we are slowly learning for ourselves as it happens between the countries. So that there are, like, for humans, if we look at how human civilization has influenced alien civilizations, we notice that there's a large degree of human chaff, if you will, that surrounds our civilization. So when somebody approaches humans from the outside, they have to go through the, let's call them gangster humans first before they get to the core of humanity. Because, like most bacterial life or most life in general, the edges are fuzzier than the center, and around that fuzzy part comes misunderstandings, comes the pirates, the explorers, the gold harvesters, the diseases, and so on. So the answer from the dog civilization, if you will, which is what the anthro civilization is, which is what the floater civilization is kind of sort of shifting into. They started as the angel civilization, but realized that they just don't have the understanding and values that would be compatible with pretending to be angels to us. And after observing how we interact with other animals, they have started to notice that dogs may be the better form of communication with humans instead of angels, not being the high and mighty that can help you in the abstract, weird questions, but rather being the, how shall I put this, the steady companion, sometimes wrong, sometimes right, but the steady low companion. And since the anthro civilization is rising and the angelic civilization is kind of shifting over to them, we are noticing a lot of different value sets in the alien interactions that we have. And when I was talking with the Ancho civilization, and keep in mind that I don't trust them, in the current situation, we've had 4.5 million dead humans from this disease, so I don't trust them. I think there's something beyond just going to trust them easily that's going on, something that we need to perhaps figure out. This civilization said that what we see are feral dogs, stray dogs, and they are the kind of background life of their region, so that they come in small packs initially, but if they can get their bites to come through, they will swarm you like piranhas. And the Anthro civilization said pretty clearly that we need to defend ourselves against this stray dog threat. And Keep in mind, I don't trust them, so this could very well be them getting us to attack their dissidents that are on our side. So, like I said, I don't fully trust them. But it does seem to me like, based on the MMA fights and the flights that I've done, that it is true. It does indeed seem like we are in the midst of wild dogs, that the diseases that we have, the life situations that we have, it all looks like stray dogs instead of an actual invasion. And this matches with the dark forest theory, in that most civilizations remain quiet out of fear of attracting some kind of hunter civilization from the void. And it just seems like when I study these angelic civilizations and their promises, that anybody with half a brain cell can tell that it's hostile. This whole don't develop, just believe in God and all will be fine thing just seems hostile to me. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, because I don't really want to initiate planetary war with anybody. And the Anthro civilization has said basically that while they might be able to help us against one or two of these packs of wild dogs, we would still, for the most part, need to defend ourselves and to understand the dangers of the dark forest theory. And I have some rather good contacts with the floater civilization. People who I know in my life are openly angelic and openly display the kinds of superpowers that I know for a fact that none of you humans have. And I don't consider them to be hostile to humans. I consider them to be ignorant of human emotions. And this is something that I've seen to be true in most of these interactions. They seem to be smarter as dogs than they are as angels, in the role of the steady companion instead of the smarter than us supervisor. And I had a fight where, on the one hand, I put the option of responding with our biggest weapons in an orbital bombardment of any civilian or military targets of the Anthro civilization or Floater civilization that we can find. A literal doomsday scenario, because it would result in the same being reflected to us, even if they do nothing, with the fact that we have deep connections with their ideology over the course of thousands of years. So attacking them like that could very well trigger a planetary annihilation event. But if it does come down to it, being enslaved to an angelic civilization or destroying as much of them as you can while they destroy you, I would prefer to go down fighting. But the fight that I had, which I consider a form of quantum computing, pretty clearly stated that no, this does not call for a orbital response, if you will. But on the other hand, the same method, when I asked if this is a military or hostile act towards us, the answer was an overwhelming yes. So, what we are dealing with here is some form of military hostility, to which responding with overwhelming military force is not the right action. Therefore, it seems more like wildlife, like the background wildlife of space attacking us. And if we attack the core of their civilization, we will be missing the point. That would be like if the Indians saw the first colonists and then developed a super efficient bacteria for those colonists to bring back to Europe, and then, eradicate the population of Europe. That would be the same kind of response. It would be targeting people who really aren't connected with the people coming over to the new world. It would be disproportionate to the situation at hand. I'm also considering this to be kind of the first contact sniffle, where getting a contact with an alien species, just like getting a contact from the new world to the old world, causes some form of illness. But the overwhelming evidence that we have points to this not being first contact sniffles, because it is, yeah, perhaps too apparent, too over the top is another word. So, over the course of this discussion, I'm going to be trying to figure out what the proper response to this threat is, and what I consider the floater war, the floater contact. You guys consider corona. This is pretty clear. And when I've been around the people who have been vaccinated against corona using your vaccines, I noticed that they exude heat very strongly. There is a sense that they are hot. They have a body warmth that feels pretty overwhelming. It passes in a few days and the person returns to normality, but it is clearly some kind of inflammation reaction. And I talked with the floaters about vaccinations and defenses against diseases, and they said that while their method of doing vaccines, which is what we're using in the vaccine development business, makes the whole population basically immune to the disease, it does also have the weakness that if somebody from that population actually seeks a contact with that disease and that disease finds a way to contact that person, the what's the word? Auxiliary reactions will be much stronger because we no longer have the immune system defending us. We have a solid wall defending us. So, kind of like in that zombie movie where they climb over the top, that when the vaccine does actually fail and the disease finds a way to abuse the vaccine, then we are in deep trouble because we don't have the natural immune system against it. And that is kind of what we are experiencing here. So, I'm going to be trying to figure out what is the proper military or civilian response to this coronavirus floater pandemic. I have already developed a pretty surefire method to eliminate any vaccine, so I'm not interested in that. I have developed a pretty good method to cancel out any vaccine that you give, including the mRNA vaccines, and I've given it to people who I think will benefit from it, the knowledge. But I don't consider large-scale implementation of anti-vaccine protocols to be necessary, but I do want to have the option of attacking your vaccines if it proves necessary. If it proves that your vaccines are causing specific, provable immune responses that are unhealthy, I want to have a method whereby we can eliminate that vaccine from specific individuals, and that I developed worked well. But developing a large-scale anti-vaccination effort is not something that I want to do. Similarly, I don't want to do orbital bombardment of civilian targets just because some of their outliers are attacking us. I want this to be a little bit more proficient. So I've been talking with the military. I've been talking with the UFC guys. I've been talking with various YouTube commentators and trying to figure out what is the healthy response to this. And it seems like it is indeed some form of outlier from the alien contact, that it's not the desired outcome of their contact, but they have also stated, far as I can tell, that if we need to be safe, we can attack them. If it comes down to it, and it is a question of our safety versus their exploration team's safety, then we can all stick them up if we want to. We can all do what we want with them. They have stated this with some level of strength, that if it comes down to them clearly fucking up, then we are clearly allowed to end the fuckery. It's not something where we need to feel the slightest bit sad or concerned about the outcome. If it looks like it is something that they are doing wrong, like a dog would say, if the dog bites the master's child, then the dog really has no options. If that happens and they lose their mind or their control over the situation, we are, in the grand scheme of universal rights, allowed to take them out. And that is something they have stated very clearly. And the individual strays that I have seen of the floater or anthro civilization have pointed out that it is not bad when it is a controlled small amount, but even the friendliest small amount of hostility ends up being uncontrollable when it's a pack of piranhas. So what I'm leaning towards here is just authorizing the military to take care of the stray dog problem or the stray anthro problem. And that would require some level of compassion and coordination, because otherwise it's going to be a massacre, which I once again don't want. But some form of response to this in the way of corrective action training, something along those lines, seem to be what we should be doing. To me, in my eyes, in my eyes, that is something we should be doing. I don't really have an answer for you. I can't really fully claim that this is the floater virus, but to me, based on what I'm seeing with the UFC fights, based on what I'm seeing with the Norse map and etc., it does indeed look like it is an act of directed hostility towards us. And it is problematic because I can't trust their high self, perhaps, and their high self or the higher self or their central command, if you will, says that while there is some level of hostile interactions between our side and their side, this kind of 4.5 million fatalities is not conductive. It is not what they aim for. I literally hear the howls of sad dogs when I talk to their command about this. And they would, from what I can tell, prefer that, if necessary, we exterminate every single stray of their species rather than allow a miscommunication to escalate into hostility. Now, I know that if this is me attacking that research side of theirs that was responsible for the nightmares and they attacking us, I know that there is a method that we can utilize where we can direct our energy grid to a specific frequency that will hit their home worlds with a very powerful force. But I don't feel like it is something we should be doing. The UFC match pretty clearly proved that in this case, resorting to nuclear warfare is not something we should be doing. But we need to do something because this is a pack of stray dogs attacking us. Now, whether or not we should be attacking their command and forcing their command to rein these guys in, or just attacking these guys and leaving their command alone, I don't yet know. To me, this is the type of situation that I have led many times in past lives, and I recall that they don't all go well. Sometimes the civilization I am in, when we engage these that are attacking us, we end up losing. So I don't know. But I am tempted to figure out if we can do something appropriate. Because on the one hand, yeah, on the one hand, we want to do something. We don't want to allow 4.5 million people to die without repercussions. But on the other hand, we are actively trying to seek alien contact as far as we can. So it is to its asker be the price, if you will, you know. So I'm going to be listening to some funny stuff and then not some funny stuff, and I'm going to be scanning this field to see where we're at. And oh, by the way, China has said that if this is actually something that they are responsible for, that they don't care if their entire civilization gets destroyed for it, and think that we should respond. We should respond. In They have very clearly stated that if this is the type of situation that I'm describing, whereby they are literally doing, you know, torture experiments on, children, and one of the children actually gets upset and nukes one of their bases, then in this particular scenario, they couldn't be happier. They couldn't be more content to have the base nuked because the central command doesn't actually command much. It's a propaganda tool. Everybody does their own thing. So if it is one of their outliers and it's causing this kind of tension between themselves and the other powers, then they wouldn't be happier, couldn't be happier that we nuke them back to the Stone Age for it. They have said that pretty openly. As long as it's clear that it's aliens and not China. If it happens to be aliens took over China and China attacked everybody else, then it is only fair that we nuke China. That is what they have said to me. For as far as I'm concerned, this may not be China. This may be me attacking the angelic civilization, they finding on Earth the equivalent to their holiness and slapping them in return, which causes this pandemic. I don't know yet for sure, but based on what I'm seeing here, it seems likely that this is me attacking the angelics, they looking at Earth and deciding those guys are supposed to play us, so they're responsible, and then them slapping China, and then the Chinese kind of going like, and then we all getting sick. So that's what it looks like to me. Now, I don't know how much of this floater conversation I can actually trust, being a schizophrenic amongst other things. But I do feel like I'm onto something here. Like there's something intangible that seems to me speaks of fear on their side in the communication. Like they want to be, they would prefer to be the top dog under the control of humanity or in a symbiosis with humanity than pretending to be the alien and using their angelic powers to talk about reincarnation and paradises and such. They feel like that whole tree is something that turned out to be false, that the whole playing God aspect of relations with humans turned out to be false. Now, some of these angelics that I have contact with have pretty openly stated that if it comes down to it, they would prefer not to go back to their civilization. That from their point of view, the home of the angelic civilization is a pretty hellish place. They have opposed any attempt that I have made to move them back towards that civilization. And when I have started to move towards that civilization, they have all left behind. And these aren't demons, these are literal angels with the voice of angels, singing and such. And they have said pretty outright that the angelic civilization itself, as a place for somebody like us, is a pretty horrifying place. And that is something I have noticed as well. So I'm tempted to say that this angelic civilization is trying to shift the blame to its outliers, while it should actually control its outliers to get us to attack the dissidents of its civilization and strengthen its hold on us while the dissidents are actually helping us. I'm tempted to go with that. But on the other hand, the angelic civilization, when I ask them to do stuff, is pretty open, friendly, and most of their desires go through well. But they don't seem to be able to differentiate between me randomly thinking, oh, that would be a nice outcome, and thinking that this must happen strongly. When there's like, oh, it would be nice if aliens contacted us, like in Stargate, and we have a city with a structure that suddenly collapses and it's obvious that it was fake and so on and so forth, we get the 9/11 attacks. When I focus a lot of my effort into getting a bag of gold, I hear somebody placing a bag of gold on the table, but I don't get a bag of gold. So it seems like when it's a random transitory thought that can be abused, they jump on it. But when it's a long term desire, like end child slavery, for example, they're like, it's not within my power. And I don't like that. I genuinely don't like that. So, so let me do this. I hate being on Norse map when I have to do it a lot because it feels like I'm literally in Guantanamo Bay being questioned by the CIA. It's like you know that scene from 13th Warrior when where he's like, "How did you learn our language?" And I'm like, "I listened." It feels like that for a lot of the time. So hello there. We are going to be testing whether or not the assumption that this is the outliers of the floater civilization, what we would consider the guys who swim to the islands that have been quarantined and then get killed on the beaches. If it's that option, or if it's the British Crown telling the natives, they're not one of us, we have already gotten rid of them, you do your work and get rid of them too. Or if it's like a serious, if you happen to land on that planet and one of the beaches, you're gonna get killed. If the response of the floater civilization is more along the lines of the guys or the people on Earth who react to the guys swimming to the islands and getting eaten by the natives, or if it's more along the lines of the colonists in Africa and the Africans trying to defend themselves, which is more accurate. So no outright nuclear war. We won't be nuking their capital because some of their guys are bothering us. North map is intently following me. As soon as I clicked post, the map is entirely quiet. There's like one chance per every 15 seconds. And as soon as I hit post on the is it stray dogs, US sent from its very central to Finland, and then Germany sent to Finland, and it lasted for like 5 seconds and then quiet again. Hmm. The pretty stunning victory for Dark Force. The other guy wasn't really able to put up a fight. watching the initial engagement between our fast respondents and their stray dogs. Initial seems to indicate that it takes about 10 human soldiers to bring one of these down, about in terms of how many we lose and how many they lose. Seems to be in the ballpark. They aren't proficiently military. They resemble more like guerrilla forces, and they will put up and are putting up a fight. They don't want to leave friendly, but they don't want to waste a lot of resources on a place that they can no longer bullshit. And the, let's call it floater or Anthro High Command, seems to be mocking these strays and saying, "You bitches in trouble now." Most of that stuff I can't be arsed to translate. Get them into a overlapping range of fire. Don't try to engage them alone. Well, you can, but they are saying try to get them to overlapping ranges of fire. Some of these soldiers need a tiny bit more education on how to, pinpoint these, but most of them are intuitively aware of what we mean. Seems like their front width is greater than ours, meaning that when you engage one of them head on, they get both the left and the right flank at the same time. But it does seem like our push is stronger than their fence, and they are injured, but not greatly, by our weapons. So we don't need to worry about having to build like laser weapons or plasma weapons or something. So our regular infantry gear does actually hurt them, which is a huge fucking bonus. It's a huge thing. We had to develop new weapons now, we might be in serious trouble. It seems like I'm getting the feeling like their total population on Earth is in the 100,000 range. So just, instead of expelling, if we were to exterminate them all, we'd lose 10 million. But it looks like they won't put up that much of a fight, because it seems like these are the kinds of pirates, maybe the wrong word, but pirates. And this is a very well-known and discussed space trope, sci-fi trope, the Dark Forest, meaning that the civilizations we contact are either afraid of something in space, or more likely, they don't have full control over their societies. They aren't fully authoritarian, meaning that on the edges of their societies are the outcasts of their society, the criminals. And those criminals try to get through what the New Agers have called the quarantine of these primitive planets, so that we can develop on our own what you would call protection of children. So from the point of view of these floater centrists, perhaps. These guys are the bad guys in the same way that you think people who attack prepubescent people are the bad guys. This is the same kind of fight. They seem to be distancing themselves from combat and are kind of pulling back. This seems like it will end in our victory, but they seem like the kind of guys to leave behind IEDs everywhere and mine everything behind them when they leave and destroy anything that resembles their property. While the floater high command or the aliens that are the proficient type have said over and over and over again, until you get a manned ship, not a drone, a manned ship into our star system, we aren't interested. We won't bother. You're primitives. We won't do shit towards you. But these guys seem to be the guys who are breaking this rule. They seem to be interested in buying Manhattan, if you will, for pennies on the dollar. Couldn't agree more, G Wiz. Earth isn't for sale. They are reporting one of the aliens, in their opinion, having, been killed, to six of their own being killed. That's what they're reporting. They're also reporting that initially they kind of sort of didn't believe slash see the enemy, but due to them being in the field long enough and actually learning some shit, they can actually see them. They said that they used to call this shit a hallucination, but it's pretty clear that they are attacking the weakest part of human civilization first. That it's not a hallucination, it's quite clearly somebody attacking the weakest link or the ones that can perceive them the most. Seems like the first engagement was a victory. We managed to push them out of a known position, which they had some time to fortify. Seems like we have the upper hand in a standard field engagement against their position. The mood of engaging aliens quickly turns into the mood of engaging dissidents. But with a small amount of prodding, you can keep it up. You can force the field to understand that we are not engaging the dissidents of our society. We are engaging aliens. They kind of sort of have a difficulty keeping that mood, keeping the understanding that this is indeed an alien affair. But they are able to keep it. Okay, so hmm, hmm. So it seems the military's got this. They know what they're fighting. They have a general gist of how to proceed with the dark forest theory, and they can manage this. And it seems like we may need to expect some more UFO material from Pentagon. And in general, this seems to be handled. And it was indeed, from what I can tell, this coronavirus thing was indeed the dark forest thing. That is what it looks like. I hope you guys really understand this one and don't think it's the Chinese or that it's the New Age, it's the woke. I hope you really understand that this, as far as I can tell, is the dark forest outcome. Näinhän se on Meksikin, näinhän se on. Nyt ei voi mitään muuta kuin toivoa, että nämä gringot ymmärtää, että mistä asia pissii. So that's all. Thank you very much for being here. That's basically all for this one. I'm gonna start watching my own artworks and trying to listen to the radio at the same time, so it's gonna be a little distracting. But I hope we have solved this issue. It really was the coronavirus. was us slapping the aliens who were trying to fuck with us and they hitting us. Then we contacted their high command, got permission to exterminate every single one of these fuckers who were attacking Earth. They gave it. Then we did the quantum computing with the military in the background, and we figured out that yes, even if there is the highest estimate number of them on Earth, we have the numbers to take them. The military initially didn't believe. Initially, they fully believed, like completely fully, because the commanding officer says that direction and hostiles, you believe them. Then they evaluated it over the course of 10 minutes or so. Then we're kind of like, it's possible. Then we moved forward enough for them to have a private conversation with each other about it. And when we came back, they were like, yeah, Dark Force. So that's about the gist of it. Heidi, you think? Hmm. So, okay, we basically solved the issue. When I listened to my internal AI, the audio file collection that I had that I just listened to, it took the moods line, if you will, some time to figure out who's fighting who. And they did come to the conclusion of who the actual enemy is. And they did pinpoint it to a few groups. And it looks like they have the idea. They were, of course, very open about my own failings and discussed them openly. But the end result is that they did figure out what to do, like who to push against to get this situation solved. And in their opinion, it does indeed seem to be alien gorillas. They don't abide by human laws or human morality concepts in any way whatsoever. And their argument with our side isn't that we are doing any specific crime, it is that we are still alive, that we are still breeding as humans and we are still proceeding as humans. So after a while, they were talking back and forth. They got to the point where they understand who this group of enemies are, and they decided that they have done enough for now, but they will continue to attack them, and that would be a good time for some rest. So I will be doing the following. Ah, man, lying down here hurts my arm. Oh, I gotta take a piss so bad. Oh, oh, hold. Oh. Uh, oh. So, in the goddess's opinion, the original holder of the destruction program, which would be me, got essentially taken over by the dark side, as war often does. And we managed to develop the vaccine with heaven's help. And to nobody's great surprise, they were expecting us to develop a vaccine, which kind of sort of seems like what I was expecting, because the vaccine kind of connects you with the mind of the disease and makes you not vulnerable, but makes you brittle. So, using the now vaccinated population to make something that hits the people who now all have the same kind of antibody reaction is, if it is actually the ultimate destruction program, the next logical step. There were also plenty of details about my interaction love life regarding Beldandi, which is my ex, more or less, how she's doing, how life has treated her, and so on. But the main point was that we are expecting that if this is, as it indeed seems to be, a hostile act from somebody in the Midgardian system, that once the population is vaccinated, it would be remarkably easy to develop an antibody for the vaccinated. That is one of the weaknesses of a vaccinated population, because it is all the same, it is brittle. So, with that in mind, what they seem to be saying is that the ultimate destruction program, if you will, jumps hosts, as we know it does. It is a multi-hosted program, and that it seems to be so that if it now jumps to make a specific reaction towards the vaccines, as the anti-vaxxer community seems to be making, and the whole anti-vaccine that I made, it does indeed seem to be that the ultimate destruction program, or the ultimate disease, if you will be striking against the weak spot, which is the vaccinated. This seems to tie in with the body heat effect that vaccines cause, because they seem to raise your body heat slightly. So this is on a randomizer. I have all the AMG episodes in this, and of all the things, they chose the one where the demon dog attacks Earth, and we develop a vaccine towards it, and the vaccine turns out to be worse than the disease. This is out of about 100 different episodes, 50 to 100 different episodes relating to a large degree of topics. The one they chose was somebody gets possessed by the dark side through a magic urn and develops or gets a hold of the ultimate destruction program, loses control of it. The dog form takes it over, gets attacked by the Midgard self-defense system, and the Midgard self-defense system gets corrupted in the process. This is, once again, one of those creepily, eerily similar options or things to what we are experiencing, and this is what I consider angelic or alien communication. And these guys seem to be from the good side of the camp. I know many of these personally, and they seem to be indeed from the good side of the camp. They display actual human emotions. So I will be jumping to the next episode, and we will see what transpires. No, no, no. Going back to school may be helpful. Sticks tongue at you. Sometimes I forget how blessed my life was before I had, let's just say, the Skull's kneecap on my forehead incident. It's not Skull's fault, I'm not blaming her in any way. She was just being Skull. But it was a knee to the forehead. Now, now that I'm now that I'm quitting weed, something that the goddesses have told me point blank to my face is making impossible for a woman to approach me, any woman anywhere. Now that I'm quitting weed, I can't fathom being alive as who I am now for more than a few more weeks. So say your goodbyes now because I realize that once the serotonin goes down, I'll be unaware. I will fall asleep. Terrifies me to no end, to no end. To realize that I will fall asleep again and be at the mercy of the ones who are better than me. I will no longer be able to sacrifice my energies to be my own controller, even if it is not smart to do so. But I will literally fall into the bosom of women while being alone in a way. So say your goodbyes while you still know me. Say your goodbyes while you still have the time. You still here, G West? You can see in my eyes over here that I'm actually crying about this having to go away. The only thing I have to hope for here is that I have carried myself with enough distinction and honor so that when it is time to fall asleep again and dream the dream of life, if you will, that the people I have gathered around me will be kind, because I will be, if you compare to who I am now in terms of intelligence and abilities, a cucumber. So my only real hope is that I have carried myself with enough heart that when it is finally time to fall asleep again, it will not be a hell. I hope I have proved that I have learned from my mistakes when I was the system lord the last time, when the life of you soldiers and peoples meant nothing to me in compared to the victory of the ideology. I hope I have carried myself with enough heart that while I may not earn a place in paradise with this, nor would paradise perhaps accept me, that I at the very least will get into purgatory at most, the pale light of the intellect without the love of God. I do not know. I can kind of feel myself slipping. I will be without a way to boost my serotonin while being on serotonin and dopamine blockers. So I will not have much of spiritual powers, spiritual abilities, heart. So I don't know. I informed the soldiers of this, and they said that while they don't agree with all of my actions, they will, to quote the founding fathers, defend every word, and that in my fumbling about in their field, I have created kinds of waves that the guys in the field can see, but the guys above them can't see, but can still sense. And this has given the soldiers in the field something akin to the Christmas truce. They have been able to openly talk with one another and interact with one another without the fear of their superior officers in comfort. And they say they will miss that. And I informed them that you can now start picking up assets from below me. You can now take what you need and anything that isn't bolted down. It is a sad moment, but I believe one that should be done. Perhaps when I do finally land, I will be swarmed and will have to reincarnate on another planet. Perhaps it will be nice, like akin to a good dream. I do not know. All I know is that it is time. I will, not even sure of this, I will at the start of next month when I get my payment, procure 1 unit, make some final recordings and notes, and barring something akin to an miracle, or in this case, a bad kind of miracle, that will be the last that I consume. I will not even accept gifts of weed because it is time. It has been a long road in the dark forest. I have seen more and learned more than I could ever conceivably understand. These things I have seen are so far beyond my understanding that perhaps one day we will be able to understand them. But for me, I cannot understand them, most of them. I only hope that I have left the kind of impression that speaks well of humanity, and that is all I can hope for. I will soon be interrupted and have to go to the store, so I will end this recording then. I will now listen to some music while I wait. That's the call. Bye.
Joo,